I'm Raphael Heath, Head of Geography at the Royal High School Bath, and this is the third of my series of tutorials for those interested in participating and looking at the world record data 2014. I previously talked about viewing the data and symbolising it, creating symbols to visualise it, and now I'm going to talk about adding secondary data and how to summarise some of the complexities of the data as well. So I've talked before about accessing data via our website as one route. I just want to show this briefly because it applies to those who aren't familiar with ArcGIS Online or don't subscribe. It says view and analyse results here, so you can do that. Just briefly on this, when it opens the map up in a moment, you'll see that you don't have full functionalities over the map compared to someone that has an account. So here you can see that the data's come up. I've talked before about changing the symbols for it and so on. You can edit the data by adding data. You can change the base maps. But in order to do more than that, you need to click on this Modify Map button here. And when you do that, a few extra things come up, the main one being this Add button. And when you click Add, you can choose to search for layers. Note there are only 4 options to add layers from. Map Notes, where you can draw your own layers onto the map, from File if you've got it on your computer and so on. But this search for layers is quite useful. So if you search for layers and put in something like, I'll zoom into the UK area for example, and I put in deprivation, and I've got ticked within map area, so it sort of narrows it down a little bit. Then various layers come up that might be relevant for my study. So this is Greater London, I think, deprivation that's coming up. You can see a map loading here with some layers of information for the London region, and there's quite a lot of data in this. Zoom in so you can see it a bit more clearly. But all this, as you can see, is freely available, and you don't need to subscribe, so you can get to it. And this has lower super output area details, are very highly detailed for deprivation data, which would be quite useful to compare to the world record data potentially. So you can play around with that, but I just want to show that briefly and show how to play around with it once you've subscribed in. So here's an example of a logged in account, and there's a little bit more you can do with it for a start. But when you go onto the ad, can you notice how there's 5 different options, including this Browse Esri Map Layers? So if I go onto that one, for example, I can see that so it'll come up with all categories to start with, normally for yours. So you've got lots and lots of things you can choose from. And if I go to demographics and lifestyle, you can see here that there are certain things relating to UK census, and if I having trouble finding that, if I type in the word census 2011, try and type that right, then again it would bring up ones that are particularly relevant to that theme. And you can see here I can bring in themes like economic activity, occupation, health, qualification information. I'll show you what it looks like if I add a layer of economic activity to the map. You'll notice it's actually bringing up 5 layers, not just 1 layer when it does this. You saw the data you can get for free. This is slightly different. This data, it's 2011 census data around deprivation, and it contains quite a lot of information and detail, which is useful. What's particularly neat about this one is as you zoom into the map, it gives you different scale information. So this is giving me economic status active information for this particular ward or area in the UK, local authority. Local authority name is Islington in this case. So what's interesting is as I zoom in now, it increases the level of detail as I go down and zoom in further, as you can see, giving me smaller and smaller areas like super output areas and so on. That's why all these layers are on here. They only show it at different scales, so this one's not showing at the moment. It's kind of whole Euro region scale, local authority, MSO, which is the current one, OA at the moment, and so on as I zoom further in. I'm just going to get rid of the others. If I zoom out a little bit, this one should reappear, the local authority level data. Maybe a little bit further, there we go. For the purpose of this particular piece of analysis, I'll use that, but just so you know, you can use any of these depending on what sort of level of detail you want to go in at. You can keep them all, but if you want to clean your map up, you could remove some of the others, which I'm just going to do for the moment to make it a little bit cleaner and simpler to understand what I'm doing. Okay, but you've got the ability to access them all. Now at the moment that means when I zoom out of a particular scale it will disappear. I thought it would disappear, maybe it doesn't. There you go, it has disappeared. If I zoom in too far, and that's because it has visibility range sets to it. So if I clear the visibility range, that then means that whatever level I've zoomed into, it will still bring it up, which could be quite useful. But as you can see, it won't get any more detailed, it will just keep those larger areas, which perhaps for this purpose is satisfactory. So that's how you can bring data into secondary data, and the USA has similarly, and other parts of the world, data. I know the USA has lots and lots of data that can be brought in from their census data freely into ArcGIS Online using the two routes, either as you map layers or from search for layers. You can actually get to a lot of that as well. I'll just get rid of that for a moment. So what I wanted to talk about next, well, very briefly, that you can change the symbols on a lot of these layers depending on who's produced them, where they've come from. So I'll just show you here that at the moment it shows that this data was based on full-time workers. I might go, okay, I'm interested in something else to pick from this list. I might, rather than have total numbers, have percentages, so it's easier to compare areas. So if I scan down the list here, I can't see it now. I thought maybe it doesn't for this. There we go. Asian unemployment, 80% unemployed. Never unemployed, never work percent. It's not quite the one I was looking for. Here we go. Long-term unemployed percent, active percent. Okay, sorry, it's set out slightly different there. In economically active percent, and I'll pick a two-tone color scheme. And one is going to be less unemployment, so it's red. I don't want that. I'm going to flip the colours. Let's see how this looks now. So at the moment, red represents higher percentage of population that are unemployed, of an economically active age. So I'll be able to change the symbols, manipulate them a bit, and I can play around with that further to get the sort of patterns or results I might want. And then I can compare that to my world record data, obviously. What I wanted to particularly talk about now, and this till lots of data comes in, isn't a great example, but you can see how in these different wards there are 3, 4, 5 different bits of data. When the world record data's in there, there might be, you know, several hundred or whatever in any one particular location, rather than this one just one piece of data in Sutton or whatever ward, but Merton ward. But if you've got lots of data, it can be quite confusing to analyse, and you might want to summarise the data according to this same sort of background data that you're looking at as well. So here I've got unemployment data, see if it relates to this data we've got, which is about concerns over safety and crime, let's say, I might just want to show you one other thing. If I move this layer up, you can see how that brings my dots on top of the map, which is a clearer visualization as well. And that's just under the little arrow. I can move them up and down, one of my other options. Anyway, yes, I wanted to move on to doing a little bit more complex analysis. Again, you can only do this if you're a subscriber. So again, it's useful if you're not, just to see the potential of what you can do if you subscribe. So I'm going to pick this layer that I've just selected down, which has these local authorities in around London, and I'm going to click Perform Analysis, and I'm going to ask it this time to summarise the data within each ward. So I'm basically saying within each local authority, which I've got as my different shapes here, can I summarise some information from this layer, the local data mapper. It'll give all the layers you can choose in your map that you might have made. I've sort of had other layers I haven't talked about that I've already got in this map, so make sure you pick the right one, local data mapper, or if you've renamed it, whatever else. It will count the number of points that are in there, which just tell me how much data it's got in each location, but I'm interested in adding more information in. So for example, I might say, well, I want to have the certain piece of data summarized, so the safety data, let's say, and I might say I want the average, so the average results. Some people have said that it's very safe in an area, some have said it's not safe, and so on. So I might do that. I could do it for all of the bits of data, or I might just do it for a couple of them. So I'll just pick another one, let's say for overall rating, and again the average is probably logical to pick for this data, and so on. And keep going with that, but that's fine. I won't pick anything there, and then I just give it a name. So I'm going to call it, just for this purpose, Test London Summary Data Record, perhaps. Something that I can easily find it later, and I'll put it into a folder that I've already got, because I'm a subscriber. I've got lots of folders. You've got this option to use current map extend. Note if you unclick that, it will process huge amounts of data, so make sure that you've got that clicked if you do want it just to click what's in your view, just to analyse what's in your view. You can double check how many credits you can use using the show credits as well, so you can see what the implications are. I can have clearly, it's about 92, it says here, awards within my view, and that's because it's restricted to my view and not the whole of London, and it says it's going to take up 0.092 credits, which is nothing, so that's fine. I run the analysis on that. And it should be doing the analysis in the background now, and sometimes it will do a little whirling, it will produce a little layer here and have a little whirling clock, as it were, which it can show you how it's progressing, and sometimes it just disappears, which is always a little bit unnerving. When it does disappear, you tend to find that it's working in the background and that you then have to go back and search for it, so this is why I was just wondering what I was going to call it and try and remember that. So I'll see if that's worked. It certainly brought up some other bits of information there as well, but let's try this. Search for layers. Okay, I'm going to search within my organisation this time because I've saved it, and it was called Test London something. See if that comes up. So Test Summary London Wards, Test London Area Shapes. I think it was this one that I just made just now. So let's see if this has worked. Add it. Yes, it's done something. So can you see how that kind of was a bit unnerving at first because it looked like it just completely disappeared and I hadn't done anything, but it had saved it. It was in my contents. I could have gone to home, my content, to find it, but that would have been a bit of a longer route. But by going to add layer and search for layers in my organisation, knowing what I've called it meant it was easy to find. So again, that's quite a useful thing just to bear in mind. Now, let's just get rid of some of the other things that are here. Okay. So the one I've just switched off is the wards that it was basing it on. You'll notice that, I'll turn this off as well, you'll notice that it's got only some of the wards identified because those are the only ones with any data in, so it's ignored all the others, so they have nothing in, therefore they are invisible. And so these wards that have got data in, the circle I believe refers to how many points there are, so 4 bits of data was added there and so on. But notice it's also got this other data in that I asked it to calculate the average score for safetiness, average score for overall quality of life. So if I now go to this layer and change the symbol, oops, what's it doing there? Try that again, change symbol. And if I go for colour this time, just to make it really clear, and change it to one of these overall score, average scores that I've, so the average safety score, let's say, how safe people felt their area was. Pick a 2-tone colour, flip the colours, no, the colours are fine, one is cancel that. Let's just try and see how that comes out. So the ones with 1 to 3 got averages like here. Let's have a look. So the average safety score here was 1. It might have only been one person in this case, but you can imagine there's lots of data. That obviously would be more telling. Average score here was 3, and so on. For safety, the average score here in this ward was Windsor Maidenhead was 7, so people felt safer there. So that's how you can kind of crunch the data down, simplify it. So I might have had 100, 1,000, whatever it is, dots in any of these areas. It's now produced averages. It gets away some of that complication, the clutter. I'll show you what the actual original data, all those dots look like, but now it's got rid of that clutter. Obviously I've only got a few wards here, but when the data's in I should have most of London perhaps covered, so it'll be much more kind of complete. I can now start looking at a pattern and saying, well, on average this ward there was less safety, fear of crime than another ward or so on, and then I could compare that to the economic data and see if there was any correlational link perhaps with the economic data and the world mapping record data views and values. So that's the basic principle, the idea of how you can kind of cope with large data sets. It's only a small one, but you can see the same idea would work in principle. You can, as I showed, bring in sort of ward layers like this from official data and then summarise it, which is quite good if you haven't got access to that or don't want to use that or have your own ideas. There's other ways you can do the same process more manually. So I could add map notes, just to finalise, show you this, and I might have, just call it test areas for the moment, but you can call it something that relates to your study. So what I've done here is I've created a brand new layer, and it says I can put pins in or shapes in. Let's say I'll just use a freehand shape. For example, So I could say, okay, look, I'm interested in comparing this area, which might be central London or whatever, close, to somewhere else. So I might pick another area to the edge of London or whatever. So you can see I could freehand draw that. I could equally do it much more kind of formally as a kind of shape, a circle, a distance from a particular area or a zone or something. And so I could be drawing these shapes around different areas I want to analyse and summarise, and then I'll just finish that, go back to the details of the map. So there you can see this is the layer I've got just created by drawing test areas, and then exactly the same as I did before, but instead of perform analysis, summarise data, summarise within, and I'm summarising within the test areas, and I run through exactly the same analysis. I won't do that now, but you can see the principle of it. So if I haven't got sort of official data awards to work from, or I particularly want to look at things of my own choosing, then I can use this approach to it. So this tutorial has kind of highlighted and showed you the idea of getting secondary data into the maps, and also how to summarise some of the data in order to compare it perhaps with that secondary data, and to look at patterns from summarising sort of large data sets and complex data sets to get kind of more average data. I hope that was useful. My name is Raphael Heath, Head of Geography at the Royal High School, Bath, and thanks for watching and taking part in the Geography